Former Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who's going to win? Is Uncle Joe going to become President Joe? He gets serious on the future of America.
And that's why I'm so anxious to see Donald Trump lose.
The SCOTUS confirmation hearings. What do you think about Amy Coney Barrett? Too close, too soon, don't do it. That infamous elevator altercation.
I told the story of my sexual assault.
What I heard from those women struck a chord.
And his wild adventures in Africa.
I once sank in the middle of the river in the middle of the night. That was not fun.
Former Senator Jeff Flake, good to see you again.
Great to be here.
And where am I reaching you? Where are you hopefully staying safe?
I'm actually in Utah this week doing some teaching at BYU. I'll be back in Arizona next week through the election.
This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen because these ballots are going to be all over. But this is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
Now, you heard the president seem to not guarantee a peaceful transition if he were to lose. What do you think would happen? As someone who's been an inside player, part of the most exclusive club, if the president were to seem to lose, but there be controversy around it and refuse to accept the loss, play it through for us, war game it a little bit. What would actually happen?
Well, the president seems to be laying the groundwork for a challenge or to place the blame or try to hold on if he doesn't win the election in a genuine way. I don't put that past the president at all to try that. But in order to be successful at that, he would have to have the institutions of government support him. And I just don't think they will. In fact, I know they won't. There aren't many of my former colleagues. In fact, there are very, very few who want to see him still in office if he hasn't won a genuine election. There's this popular lore that he's populating the courts who will then come and protect him if he hasn't won a general election. That's baloney. I don't know of one judge, certainly not on the Supreme Court or on any circuit court or any court that would try to keep him in office if he hasn't won a genuine election.
All right, so I want you to play prognosticator for a minute. What do you expect is going to happen this fall? Who's going to win? Is the president going to win re-election like most of our modern presidents who typically win re-election? Or, is Uncle Joe going to become President Joe?
Well, I don't know if my predictions are just my preferences, and I will fully admit I was completely wrong in 2016.
We're going to get to work immediately for the American people. And we're going to be doing a job that hopefully you'll be so proud of your president. You'll be so proud.
But I've thought ever since 2016 that it would be difficult for the president to put together that royal flush again in the Electoral College. Even before Corona, before the economy collapsed because of Corona, then it would be difficult. I think it's virtually impossible now, given the way he's handled the coronavirus.
And I just see you right now, it's about 149 cases. We pretty much shut it down, coming in from China. It will go away, just stay calm. I am officially declaring a national emergency. We have a problem that a month ago nobody ever thought about. A lot of people think that goes away in April, but they think August, could be July, could be longer than that. And I haven't touched my face in a week.
You can only drill down on the base so hard. You've got to broaden your base and your electorate, and the president has made no effort in doing that. But right now, if the election were today, I think that Democrats would control both chambers and the White House.
Let me begin by noting a somewhat obvious point, that these offices that we hold are not ours indefinitely.
Jeff Flake made headlines when he took to the Senate floor in 2017 and announced that he would not seek another term as senator. In part, Jeff said his decision was because of the tone set by President Trump and the degradation of today's politics. But critics claimed it was because he had very little chance of winning re-election.
When the next generation asks us, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you speak up? What are we going to say? Mr. President, I rise today to say enough.
You in 2017, I like to joke that you did a full-on Jimmy Stewart. You were kind of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
There's no place out there for graft, or greed, or lies, or compromise with human liberties.
What happened after you did that? Did people come up and say, hey, Jeff, you did the right thing? Did people say, Jeff, bye-bye? That's kind of the end of your career? What happens? Take us inside the club, most exclusive club in the world, the Senate. What happens after you go full Jimmy Stewart on them?
Well, a lot of my colleagues on the Republican side and the Democratic side, said nice things afterwards. Some of those on the Republican side were a little more careful of what they said afterwards because right now, President Trump controls this party. And if you are up for re-election anytime in the future, certainly at that time, you knew that the president could pick up the phone and generate a primary for you, that you would not survive. So I was grateful to be able to still have 15 months after I announced that I would retire, not run for re-election, to speak out. And I tried to use every platform I could to talk about the dangers that were coming if we didn't turn around.
Another bold thing you did in your last 2 years was around the Brett Kavanaugh hearings when he was a judge, a nominee to be on the Supreme Court. Things were moving along in terms of the nomination, and then there was a dramatic scene in an elevator in which two women who had survived themselves sexual assault implored you to support hearing from Dr. Christine Blasey Ford.
On Monday, I stood in front of your office with Addie Barkan. I told the story of my sexual assault. I told it because I recognized in Dr. Ford's story that she's telling the truth.
Upon reflection, did you do the right thing in extending that and allowing her testimony? And even more than that, if you had to do it all over again, would you still have supported Kavanaugh, or did you make a mistake?
So I had previously told the leadership that I would not support his nomination unless we did hear from Dr. Ford. We heard from her. But I still wasn't satisfied that we hadn't done an investigation. And that scene in the elevator, what I heard from those women was what I had been hearing, and many of my colleagues had been hearing from friends and associates and family members and others who had had some experience, and it struck a chord. And I knew that the Senate as an institution, we had not done due diligence, and that's why I insisted on an FBI investigation. I have been speaking with a number of people on the other side. We've had conversations ongoing for a while with regard to making sure that we do due diligence here. And I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote.
In the end, did you believe Dr. Blasey Ford's testimony that she'd been assaulted? Yes, no?
I mean, it's tough to believe, and I said on the Senate floor, and during that time, when you had a situation where you had two teenagers who both admittedly were drinking at the time, I'm not sure we'll ever know what happened.
What do you think about Amy Coney Barrett? Should her nomination come up either before the election or post-election, but before January? Is that the right thing to do given what happened to Obama's nominee in his last year in office when McConnell and lots of Republicans said, hey, too close, too soon, don't do it?
Well, given what we Republicans said in 2016, I just don't think it's right to move forward. 9 months before an election, we said the next president ought to decide. Yet 6 weeks before an election, we say, no, we're going to plow right ahead. And so I believe that Republicans should have waited. Now, having said that, as to the qualifications of Amy Coney Barrett, we confirmed her to her current position in 2017. She is a well-qualified nominee. She may be more conservative than some like, or she may not have the philosophy that some is, but she's qualified for that position. I think she will be confirmed. But if it were up to me as a Republican, I would have waited.
Did you look closely at running for president in 2016? Were you thinking about that in any serious way?
Oh, not in 16 at all. No, there was a big field. I didn't think that Donald Trump would emerge at the top. I'd hoped that there'd be many, like 17, who would best him in the contest. So there was no thought at that time. In this year, there was some encouragement and a little thought, but not much. This is the president's party, unfortunately, and there's just no getting around that right now.
Have you met with the president, with President Trump one-on-one at any point?
Yes, I have several times, but not until he had secured the nomination. I never did the pilgrimage to New York to get money from him or get his support before. His support of birtherism just turned me off so badly that I just could never have supported him. But when he secured the nomination, he came to the Senate and met with Senate Republicans. And, there were all 51 or 52 of us there. And he pointed at me at the back of the room and said, "You've been very critical of me." That was my first contact with him. And I said, "Yes, I have." I said, "By the way, I'm the other senator from Arizona, the one that wasn't captured." And I said, "And you have to stop saying these things about John McCain." And then I said, "And you also have to stop saying the things about Hispanics that you're saying, because you're going to kill the party." He got angry and told me I was going to lose in November. I reminded him I wasn't up in November.
What do you think you will tell your grandkids one day about why Donald J. Trump became the 45th commander-in-chief? Like, no one else is around, just you and the grandkids. They know that, and Papa, they've got a political expert. And what will you say? Why did he win?
Well, I think Republicans, sometimes parties will tend to support a populist, somebody who will promise things that they can't deliver, and to play on people's raw emotions, and to play on fear and division. And sometimes people give in to that, and we did. Now, I think with realization that it was a bad detour, and the party will be back. And it may hopefully be a short detour, but it was significant, and it doesn't speak well for us as a party, certainly as Republicans, that we elected him.
Would it be reasonable for people who love democracy and who think about civic responsibility to penalize Republicans for a generation or two?
Whether it's reasonable or not, that may happen. I think it's reasonable, but I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, for whatever reason, we've given ourselves two parties in this country, and we need two strong, robust, viable parties to debate issues. And that's why I'm so anxious to see Donald Trump lose, and for the party to recognize that there's no future with Trumpism. That just anger and resentment are just not a governing philosophy.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
And what would you say to someone who said to you, "Hey, but to be fair, a lot of this isn't new. I mean, Trump may be doing it in a louder, more entertaining way, but race and race baiting and racism seems to have become a meaningful part of the Republican conversation." What would you say to them?
Well, there's always been this element in the party. The historian John Meacham was saying that, there's always been that 10 or 15% of those who support Republicans who may harbor those kind of feelings. His concern, and it is mine too, that it's a much bigger percentage of the party today. He thought maybe upwards of 40%. I don't think it's that. But I do think that it's a responsibility of elected officials to state strongly that element should have no place in the party. And I do think that still, this country, I believe as a conservative, that if given the choice, most Americans will choose the more free market, conservative path most of the time. But we've got to compete in the battle of ideas. And right now, it's just a battle of personalities. And are you with the president? And we're not going to get anywhere with that.
Senator, let me take you to kind of a very different topic. You're Mormon and have grown up in the Mormon faith. I've gotten to know Senator Romney a little bit over the years and really enjoy him. We've always had good conversations, and he and I have talked a little bit about, in his mind, the role of his faith, both in his life and in his public life and work. How has your faith shaped you?
Well, it has provided a spiritual grounding, and I hope that I've lived up to it. And I grew up in a town called Snowflake, founded by my great-great-grandfather and Erastus Snowflake. In the early days of the church in Arizona in the 1800s, the church leadership was concerned that there might be too many Mormons in one party or another. They wanted, a good debate and then to be represented by both parties. And so they would go and say, whoever's in the left pews, register Democrat. Whoever's in the right pews, register Republican. In my town of Snowflake, the demarcation was Main Street. Those living east of Main Street were to register Democrat, west of Main Street, Republican. The Flakes lived east of Main Street. And so really, until my father's generation, we registered Democrat.
After high school, Jeff attended Brigham Young University, where he took 2 years off to serve as a missionary in Africa for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, did you spend time in Zimbabwe or no?
I did. Wrote my master's thesis on Robert Mugabe. My favorite place in Africa, I think, is Zimbabwe. Just the people and the culture, and it's just incredible.
Now, don't tell me that you can speak the clicking language or one of them. Can you speak Xhosa or no?
No, I can ask for a glass of water, which I did a lot. When I was a missionary, you say "Olomanzi."
Jeff met his wife Cheryl while both were freshmen at BYU. They've been married for 35 years and have 5 children. What have you learned about love in this life, Senator Flake? If you were going back and talking to young people who are just starting off in the game, and be as candid as you feel comfortable, but if someone really wanted to learn a little bit about love, like what have you learned about love that you would share with a young person?
Well, what matters is relationships that you have, principally with your family, and second, with those around you. And what I tell college students or those who are thinking about running for office is that you'd better have a reason. There better be something that you want to change or continue or end or some real reason that motivates you. Because being in public office, it is, being in the Senate, it is the most exclusive club in the world. There are perks. You do meet with heads of state, travel on Air Force One sometimes. It is a heady experience. But in the end, there are a lot of sacrifices that are made, principally by your family, because you aren't always there. And when you have a family with 5 kids, 2,000 miles away from Washington in particular, you'd better have a good reason that you're there.
Senator Flake, I want to do a little bit of what I call rapid fire. I'd love to hit you with a half dozen or so things and get your immediate reaction if you don't mind.
Sure.
Your favorite comedian?
John Candy was always. Back when. Just love the man.
I love the big fella. He was funny as well. What's one of your favorite books of all time?
Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. Just an incredible autobiography and very genuine and real.
Biggest mistake you've ever made?
Biggest mistake? Oh, boy. Playing squash last week and pulling my hamstring and having to have surgery this week. Maybe that's just the most recent.
Your favorite athlete?
Oh, Bo Jackson. I mean, the guy was not just a two-sport athlete. He could have been a 3 or 4-sport athlete and be, dominant in all of them.
And your nickname growing up?
Hey, when your last name's Flake, do you really need a nickname? Come on, let's get real.
Will you run for president in 2024?
No, I think 18 years in Congress is a pretty good run. I'm not planning on running for another office, but I do hope that somebody in the Republican Party can help bring the party back to where it needs to be.
Senator, I love that. I love your adventurism. I love your openness. Even though you've been a little bit coy about it, something tells me we haven't seen the last of you in public office. And I'm going to smile and look forward to a follow-up of this conversation next year.
It's great to talk to you, Carlos.
Always good to see you. Thanks again for joining me. Hey, I really enjoyed that conversation with Senator Jeff Flake. I've gotten to know him a little bit over the last couple weeks. He's got a good, easy sense of humor, obviously a thoughtful person. I love his international experience. I don't meet many people who, like my family, has kind of an intersection with Zimbabwe. So it was good to hear that a little bit. And was very intrigued by his thoughts of what would happen if it seems like President Trump is lost, but he doesn't want to leave office. His confidence that Republicans would abandon him and abandon him relatively quickly was surprising. Sounds like someone who feels like he's had in-depth conversations with other senators, members of the military, members of the court. Notice how he said the Supreme Court basically said no way that they would support him in the way that the 2000 court supported W. Very, very interesting. That'd be big news if that's the case. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, I hope you'll subscribe, hope you'll tell a friend, and maybe you'll go all the way. Maybe you'll listen to the podcast. It's good stuff. I'll see you soon. Hey, tune into the Carlos Watson Show. It's like no other. You're going to enjoy it every weekday on YouTube.